Welcome back to Israeli Frenemies here on ILTV, the weekly show where we bash out the most heated subjects of the week. I'm here with my partner and friend, Uri Zaki. How you doing? How's the week going?
It's been going well. It's going well, yeah.
A lot of news stories coming up, so let's get right to it. We've got a lot to talk about.
So these past 2 weeks have been hectic with regard to the Netanyahu investigations. On the one hand, you have some of his closest allies, specifically Ari Harrow, who's been his chief of staff, signed a deal with the state attorney to be a witness supposedly against Netanyahu. On accusations of supposed bribe and so on and so forth. On the other hand, the Israeli right, the coalition partners, and specifically the Likud party, the ruling party in Israel, is allying itself around Netanyahu. Yesterday, a day before we were filming this, there was a big rally in Tel Aviv in support of Netanyahu, where Netanyahu's message was this is a kind of a coup d'etat. This is not, all these criminal allegations are not because are political, are because this is a government of the right. Now, I think Netanyahu, in order to save his own skin, is willing to basically to bash the public's trust in the legal process in Israel. The fact that he's saying this is political, and we need to remember, the Attorney General is his appointment, a former cabinet secretary, Avichai Mendelblit. The Chief of Police is his appointment, a former deputy of the head of Shin Bet. And all these accusations come from the legal branch of the government. It's not, the media doesn't invent it, it's not the left. And to make it into a kind of an Erdogan-style accusations against this, the day, I think it's very, very dangerous. And before I'll bring it to you, Ari, just another reminder. When Netanyahu was the head of opposition, and Prime Minister Olmert was in a similar position, where there were accusations, not an indictment yet, Netanyahu called for the resignation of Olmert, saying that a prime minister cannot serve with such big trouble vis-a-vis investigations. I don't see the difference.
Okay, so let me just, a couple of things just to clarify. Number one, this is, I believe, story number 12, if I'm not mistaken, if I counted correctly, over the last 10 years. Now, the stories actually do begin with someone bring up charges. Like, for instance, the first story they had in Netanyahu, it was the Haaretz newspaper that brought up the first charges. This one's, I'm not sure who the source is, but I'm willing to put money on it. If we find the source, it's probably someone from the left. I don't know. But here's the thing. I didn't vote Bibi. You know that. And I would like to switch him. You know that as well.
By whom, by the way?
Well, Yichud Leumi, the National Union on the right, is certainly kind of the party that I'm connected with, but that's not the point. And I'll tell you again, if he's indicted and charged, he should sit in jail. Okay, there's no issue here. The problem is, and this is what my problem is that for the last whatever amount of years, you have story after story or charge after charge, and so far it's been smoke. What will happen in the future, I don't know. So far it's been smoke. So this is kind of like broke the camel's back, I guess. He's like had enough of it. His family's had enough of it. So what they did was they got a Likud get together, and even the right wing. You heard Bennett. He was saying we support you. If we're going to switch you in the government, we're going to switch it through elections. The biggest issue here is the feeling I feel that coming from the right is that for the last 11 years the left has not been able to win an election, and this is another kind of attempt to try to oust Netanyahu through undemocratic elections. Now, if he's guilty, he should sit in jail.
Hold on,
but just one second. Let me just one second. The law is, even if he's guilty of a crime, the Knesset then has to vote. I think it's 80 covered Knesset have to oust him. So even if there are charges and suspicions against him, which there are, and it's embarrassing, I think no one wants this, he doesn't have to leave government. But the calling of the left from Bougie Herzog to Tzipi Livni to Yair Lapid, who's saying you have to resign right now.
But when he was the head of opposition,
agree with you.
he had the same demand from Olmert.
And
it was.
So I'm not a Bibi fan. That's not true. I am a Bibi fan, but I didn't vote for Bibi. But again, that is already his personal issue. And if someone has a problem with that, don't vote for him.
But hold on. Why? How is it different than Olmert? First,
it's not. It's not.
And second,
it's not.
And second, and my question to you is: I can understand that right now there's no indictment yet. It's a different story. And I agree that the law says that only when there's a final verdict, only then does he have to resign. But don't you think that if there'll be an indictment, where, as I said before, the heads of the legal branch in Israel, who are all personal appointments of Netanyahu,
Totally irrelevant, right? Okay.
and they will say this man is charged with bribe. Do you really think that a prime minister can run the government, run the country, while facing such accusations, being in court every second day and so on and so forth?
It's a good point. My answer is the following. I think that Netanyahu has shown that he doesn't give in to pressure, international pressure. I don't see any, in other words, if there were any hints of him saying, oh, he's doing something that's out of his control, I would agree with you, but there's no hint of that. In other words,
you can see him like he will be in court, like let's say every second day or something like that, and then running a war, running a peace effort.
He faced Obama for 8 years. He did fine. So I don't know. Again, I don't see any hint that he's losing it. If I do, by the way,
no, but we're not there yet. But,
no, but I don't
see
an
indictment.
Right. So again, I don't think. Like I'm going to say again, if there's a point where we see he's losing it, then the government can also oust him. But again, I think, for instance, the demonstrations in Tel Aviv, which had a quote that he mentioned last night, Netanyahu is guilty until proven innocent, or if we can't get him through elections, we'll get him through investigations. That kind of talk, that's the Arjun
Well, but
talk.
that's an opposition, that's how it
that's
works.
That's undemocratic. Welcome back. Our next subject, we're talking about Elor Azaria. For those who need a little bit of a reminder, around a year ago, an IDF soldier who was at the scene or came after the scene of a terrorist attack, a terrorist plunged a knife into another soldier. Elor Azaria showed up several minutes later and confirmed the kill or shot the terrorist dead. He is now being brought up on charges of manslaughter. I'm not sure what the charges are, but he's being sent to jail now for a year and a half. The reactions in the nation have been very, very mixed. From one side, people saying he was a hero. From the other side, people he would say was a murderer. I would say I stand a little bit in the middle. I think that we're getting a little bit mixed up. In other words, even if he goes to jail, I think we're kind of erasing the fact that he killed a terrorist and not the milkman and not the ice cream man. And I think, in my humble opinion, all he did was go against IDF orders, which he should be punished for. Turning him into a moral criminal, in my eyes, is completely unfounded. I don't think he did anything morally incorrect. I think he broke orders. And breaking orders, he should deal, breaking orders, should deal with that.
I have elements that I agree with. First of all, he didn't only break orders, he also broke the law. And at the end of the day, the law is higher even
he was a soldier, so he's under orders.
The order, but you should.
He's not under civilian law.
Both of us serve. Both of us know that when someone is no longer a threat, and definitely 11 minutes after the
6, 7, whatever it is,
shooting him point blank in the head is not a threat. I do agree that, or not agree. My opinion is that first, I think Elor Azaria is, I think, a victim of his own manipulation by some political figures. I think he has this self-perception of being a hero. As you said, I don't think.
I didn't say he thought it was a hero.
Yeah.
People
think, but he also, we know how glamour works. You feel that you have such a big support. The support is irrelevant to the legal process, and the legal process goes through, as you say, orders or the law. He was convicted twice by two military courts. The Court of Appeals even said, 2 of the 5 judges said that he should have been accused of murder, not only manslaughter. So this is a guy who definitely broke the army law, and he's definitely not a hero. I do think he has an element of a victim of the situation, because he, some politicians back then, 2 years ago, spoke about you need any terrorist with who's trying to attack Israeli soldiers has to die no matter what.
That's IDF policy, by the way.
No,
IDF policy.
IDF policy is to neutralize the
no,
threat.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I'll be happy to look.
To do what he did.
No. There's a difference. IDF policy is if a terrorist is coming to attack, he has a weapon.
For sure.
He has intent. One second, he has intent, and he's the ability. It's shoot to kill. It's not shoot to injure.
For sure.
I think that
if you have a live threat, of course.
But I think again that it's a little bit hypocritical. Not even conscious. I don't think they're doing this on purpose. But I think we saw, for instance, on the Temple Mount just 3 weeks ago, the terrorist who was neutralized got up and shot and almost killed another policeman. I think in the past, for instance,
he hasn't killed. I didn't
say
he could have.
But I think also in the past, Israel, which I'm okay with, for instance, Ahmed Yassin, right? He wasn't a danger when they killed him. If we go back to the people who were killed,
I see your point.
So again,
it's a valid point, by the way. It's a valid point.
And by the way, I will say that I do believe that any terrorist, I don't believe any terrorist should survive their own attack. I believe every terrorist that comes to murder, certainly our soldiers, and certainly our people should certainly end up dead, and not only because they're trying to kill. I don't believe in killing murderers, without due process. This is not a murderer. In other words, rapists I'd like to see die and castrated, but that's not the point. But what I'm trying to say is that there is due process. But when it comes to terrorism, there's a movement around them. And my friend, and I know this is not fair because of the emotional, my friend Yoshua Friedberg, who was murdered by 3 terrorists, his terrorists were let go and they killed afterwards. I see nothing more.
By the way, they were let go not because they weren't shot, but the Israeli government, probably the Netanyahu government, released them or something like that.
No, it's because of the Shalit deal, and again, I'm happy Gilad Shalit is home. Yeah. But I think that moral standard is a problem. I don't think that any terrorist should be walking after.
But the question is, and I think you have a very valid point here. We come to the same point from totally different. What you said about
Yassin, justified, by the way. Don't think that I don't think I'm against them taking out Ahmed Yassin.
If I were Elo Azaria, instead of saying I was a hero and I'm entitled to have to be glorified as a hero, I would have said, what is the big difference between those taking out Yassin and what I did? The only question is what you do it through the chain of command and I didn't.
Right.
But I see my superiors. That's what they do. That's a valid point. But he's taking another. I think it was silly.
I think the way they ran this case was a silly case. I mean, his lawyer, who is is a character in Israel, and he has this show where he called the head of the army fat. I don't know if you heard about this. It was a silly thing. I don't think he has to be put on trial for that. You're allowed to call the head of the army fat all you want. That's not incitement, but it was a silly thing to do. I think that it was a mistake. That I don't think Elo Azaria did this, by the way. I think his lawyer was more in charge of this. But I think
his former lawyers told him go for a deal with the prosecution. Get something else, but he wanted his family. Well, they're used to all these, photographers and everything. Right. I think they are victims of these politicians like Sharon Gal, like Sheftel, who are trying to make this a case for their own fame instead of thinking about Elo Azaria.
I agree, but if we go back to the main issue, I find it distasteful that we're putting a soldier in jail who killed a terrorist. I find there's something wrong.
That's why he's going for a year and a half and not for 20 years, how it's the usual punishment for.
To me, there's something wrong of a soldier at all going to jail for killing a terrorist. Again, if his hands were tied and he was at court, different story. It's on the scene of the crime. He wasn't stripped naked, and again, whether he thought it was a threat or not,
that was
totally
already proved in 2 courts.
I understand.
That it's not wasn't the case.
Judicially, he's guilty.
So this week there was an attack after a long while. There was a rocket shot from Gaza. Thank God it didn't hurt anyone. Exploded in an open field.
Which is why the Iron Dome didn't deploy.
Right. The Israeli Air Force attacked some positions of Hamas near the Gaza border. And we're also learned this week that the IDF is now putting a kind of a iron shield underground in order to prevent the tunnels, which became a major threat with Hamas terrorists digging under the fence and have the ability to come out of the ground
inside
Israeli,
inside villages in Israel,
right?
Inside towns.
I don't think that will have any debate about the mere fact that there is a need for having such a shield. The Israeli settlements by the Gaza border should be
Settlements?
Settlements in the English original.
Okay, stereotype, not a settlement. Okay.
Yeah, the communities by the. You should be happy that settlements are every.
I don't have
any.
The connotation is usually negative, so I was surprised you said that.
No,
Okay.
well, you know, the original English word for.
Absolutely, Bible, right? Settle the land. So I'll tell you, in other words, it's great to put the wall there, quote unquote, but I think it's a ridiculous band-aid. I'm going to explain. The walls, it's going to cost 4 billion shekels. That's 41 million shekels every meter of the wall. You know, one of the arguments that the left usually a lot of times use is the security for the settlers, right? It costs too much money. Well, this is costing more money than those settlers actually there. I think the problem is the following. In other words, I think you know the stories of Chelam, you know, the famous stories where you build a hospital instead of taking care of. So here we're putting a Band-Aid down. Okay, so the shoot missiles over. I think right now in Gaza there is a terrorist organization, a religious-based genocidal terrorist organization, which has one goal in mind, is to kill you and me together and destroy Israel. Putting up a wall will stop the tunnels. It's not going to stop the problem. So therefore, I don't believe, and I'll say this bluntly and straightforward, I don't believe that there's any solution to the Gaza Strip or anywhere else unless Israel takes full security control over the area, because until you weed out those genocidal terrorists, the problem's just going to stay there.
I don't even want to start this argument. I obviously don't think it's possible, but I do want to challenge.
It would be cheaper.
Our Minister of Defense, who on the eve of his entering the position of Minister of Defense, said that if he'll be the Minister of Defense, he'll take down the leader of Hamas physically, and he will take over, will wipe out Hamas and take over the Gaza Strip. And we see that Netanyahu, Lieberman, this ultra right-wing coalition.
Not ultra right-wing.
Well, you have all the only right-wing elements in this coalition, and especially those who handle the security, and they're doing nothing. They're doing.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100% what you just said. The conclusion to that is, in other words, you're saying that they did nothing, and therefore be more lenient on.
No, I want to understand
I'm
why.
saying. I'll explain to you why, and I agree with you.
It's because of the left?
No, not at all, not at all. I would say it's because of the ideology. In other words, since Oslo, the ideology has that we have to sometimes apologize or defend ourselves, and I'm for offense when there's a threat on the line. So I think that this activity by Lieberman, I agree with you 100%. It was big talk. It was a politician making big talk, and not paying. I agree with you, and therefore, I think the next elections, the people should vote really right and not vote, center or.
But don't you think it's because they understand? Sharon said once, "What you see from here, you don't see from there." Probably Lieberman, who's always had like big in statements and very poor on deeds, but still, it's very easy to say.
They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
Well, this week again, Trump is in the headlines, but not only Trump, North Korea as well. And, it seems that the talk of Trump during the elections has actually come to reality now. North Korea is a dictatorship which is cruel to everyone, including its own people, who has nuclear weapons, which is scary, and actually threatened to attack Guam, which is an American island, I guess. And Trump, in public, said if they don't stop their threatening, what was the words? They're going to see fire and fury like the world has not known. Now, I'm hoping he's playing poker, because I'm hoping he's hoping that this dictatorship will go, all right, I fold, I'm done. Unfortunately, I'm not sure the guy you see on the screen is logic. I don't think he's working with logic. The question is what happens when he calls the bluff. I think that North Korea is a horrific place in terms of everything they stand for. I do believe that there is something for fighting evil. I do believe that, for instance, when the world did not fight Hitler and when Chamberlain signed a treaty with him, it was horrific. So something has to be done about this guy. Maybe he's trying to bluff him out. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I don't see how we're going to get out of this predicament right here. I think we're on the brink of something very dangerous and very serious.
I want to say two things. First of all, I hope that you're right and it's only a bluff, because I think, we spoke about Lieberman before. It's very easy to make statements, but, when you deal with nuclear weapons, there are no winners, especially when two sides have, and for the island of Guam, and if they'll have missiles that go even further, very dangerous. This is something that, and Trump is someone who's, how would I say it, at least seems a bit reckless when it comes to
Which
policy.
he might be betting on, by the way. He might be betting. He might say to this guy, listen to me, you know me. You've seen me during the elections.
But
Watch
the
it.
problem is when, sometimes when you play chicken, someone actually loses it.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing, and I'm sure here you'll disagree with me, to me, that's a proof that going to the nuclear deal with Iran, with all the problems of this deal, the fact that it does prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon proves that it served its purpose. When you have someone like that, who's a tiny country, irrelevant country, becomes a world threat because they have the ability to shoot nuclear weapons, that's a real major problem. And I think that President Obama was smart of dismantling this ability of Iran.
Well, he didn't dismantle it. He made a deal with them that they've broken already.
They don't have
several times.
Not on the nuclear issue.
No, one second. They don't have it yet. They're building it. We don't know.
They're not building it.
Well,
there's supervision.
Again, if you trust them, they say, we're not building it. We don't really know what's
trust the
happening.
Americans who say they're not building it.
No, America said they already broke the deal.
No, it
and
didn't.
Iran already said to America, you're breaking the deal.
It did not. It did not say that.
They had several times they broke the deal.
They
America
said
did not know anything about it.
Not about the nuclear deal.
Uranium was breaking the deal.
Check it out.
I will check it out. But I think that the deal, again, if you trust these leaders to make a deal with them, the same way that if you trust Arafat or Hamas or even Abbas, who wrote his doctorate on Holocaust denial, okay, I don't trust these people. Certainly not with my life. And therefore, I don't think that any deals with these people will do anything. Certainly, when you don't really have eyes on the ground, who's watching the Iranians?
No, there are mechanisms of
Who's
watching Americans, the UN.
They're on the ground. Where are they watching them?
They're watching it exactly
So
on the sites of the
that's why I say
nuclear weapons.
the world's been fooled once. It was fooled by Hitler again. Don't forget, he said, Chamberlain.
It's not the same thing. There was no agreement with Hitler about weapons or anything like that.
Chamberlain signed an agreement that he wouldn't attack.
I don't know. The Iran deal.
It's very dangerous.
The Iran deal. It's good that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons.
Yet.
Period. Even if it's yet, this guy already has it. He's using it in tests. He's shooting rockets, and we see how really. I don't know, crazy and unpredictable dictator can drive the world crazy, and even the mighty America or Russia or China can't really do anything about it.
Therefore, we should never give these people power.
For sure.
In other words, people who stand for this kind of...
I don't agree with the way you're analyzing any regional government here.
People who have a genocidal wish or a destructive wish should not be given power, certainly not weapons. I think, for instance, if we go back to Israel, Arafat should never have been given guns. I mean, that's a ludicrous kind of thing.
I'll be happy to make this debate, but I think it's irrelevant.
I think it's the ideology where peace and diplomacy has to lose sometime. It's not going to work at certain points.
I don't think we're not peaceniks. Rabin was not a peacenik.
Well, that's true. He said break their bones. That's we know that. But whatever it is. But I'm saying with this guy, what's his name, John Kim. I think that I think war is a little bit inevitable in this point. I don't know.
But the war, what would be a nuclear war?
I don't know. I would say that the world has to destroy this man's weapons.
By the way, he got this weapon under President Bush's watch.
Yeah, it's totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
So we come to the conclusion of another week, of another show. Before we end, I want to mention Chana Minenko, an Israeli athlete who on the World Championship of Athletics almost made it for a medal. Came in fourth on triple jump, I believe. I don't know what's the English term for that, but I think for a small country, it's a big achievement, and I hope that in the next Olympics,
we have in technology, we have in medicine, we're really shining in the world. I think it's a good thing. We should be able to focus on those things for sure. Well, we come to another end of another show of Israeli Frenemies. We're broadcasting here in Tel Aviv, Israel, on ILTV, and I'm wishing everyone an awesome weekend. Don't forget to share us on Facebook and across the social media. God bless from the beautiful country of Israel.